Well, Alex, what is L-Arginine?
Well, L-Arginine is a fascinating conditional amino acid, and it's called conditional because unlike other amino acids, which are either essential or non-essential, this one depends on what your health is. Your kidney can only produce so much L-Arginine at a time, and this is because there's a rate-limiting amino acid called L-citrulline. And L-citrulline converts into L-Arginine, and that L-Arginine can only produce so fast. What then happens is that if you have, for example, a burn or a infection or some severe injury, suddenly your body can't produce enough of the L-Arginine from L-citrulline. So we're very dependent on the diet for L-Arginine. And the problem is that a lot of people don't eat the right foods, or they don't eat the right combination of particular foods that are rich in L-Arginine. And as a result, they're still short of L-Arginine. And this is where L-Arginine supplementation becomes very, very important.
Well, what is its role in the body?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things that when you think about L-Arginine. You know, back in 1992, Science magazine, which is considered the premier scientific journal in the world, it's published by the American Association for Scientists, and this particular publication declared L-Arginine as the miracle molecule, or the molecule of the year.
When was this again?
This was in 1992.
Okay.
And the reason why it was, there was a lot of research unraveling at the time by researchers at the University of Texas, at State University of New York, and at UCLA, at the University of California, Los Angeles, that was starting to show that L-Arginine was absolutely essential for cardiovascular function, that it actually was a gas, not a chemical compound as we normally think, that circulated throughout the body and actually increased the body's ability to respond to repairing tissue. It sort of made everything happen faster. Just think of trying to get a tow truck to the site of a car accident, and the quicker the infrastructure can get that tow truck there directly, the easier it is to get that car out of there, get it to a garage, and get it repaired. Well, L-Arginine was doing basically that. It was stimulating the body's ability to move molecules, and it was doing it through something called signaling. And this was the great breakthrough, that these doctors figured out that this gas was actually sending signals between different cells, and those cells were now responding in the way they were supposed to, whether they're in the immune system or to repair damage, like for example to replace damaged cells with new cells that were not damaged. And as a result, in 1998, all three of these doctors, these professors, won the Nobel Prize in medicine and physiology. And from that moment on, the excitement that was related to L-Arginine and nitrous oxide really began to become very, very serious. And at that point, a lot of companies started to figure out how can we increase nitrous oxide from L-Arginine, because that's the gas that we want to increase to facilitate normal healing in the human body.
So the benefit to the body would be healing?
Well, that's one of many, many. When we get into L-Arginine, we could literally talk about it, I think, for an entire day.
Okay.
So we'll try to do it in sort of a short of summary fashion. I think one of the highlights of L-Arginine is its ability to get rid of a waste product called ammonia. Ammonia is toxic in the human body. We release nitrogen all the time because we're creating tissue and we're breaking down tissue. When you break down tissue, you release nitrogen. And that nitrogen is combined with hydrogen, and they form a compound that's known as ammonia, which our body has to get rid of on a regular basis. L-Arginine helps to get rid of that waste product. So that's a very important function for L-Arginine. And without it, we would become toxic, and eventually it could lead to death. So let's just say we need that L-Arginine. That's really, really important. Another thing it does, it helps the body to make three other amino acids, creatine, L-proline, and L-glutamate. And these also are very, very important to the body. When we think of creatine, what we think about is its ability to provide muscle energy. So it's important to the muscles and also to the nervous system. So that's one important thing. L-proline is important for wound healing, but also interestingly for the synthesis of collagen. We think a lot about collagen. For example, you hear doctors say things like, if we can increase the amount of collagen in your wrinkles, the wrinkles would disappear. Well, there's another role for L-Arginine. It helps synthesize the very collagen we need, whether it's for our hair, for our joints, for our skin, so it plays that role as well. Then L-glutamine is called an excitatory amino acid, excitatory neurotransmitter. And so it's very involved in energy metabolism and providing support for particular brain function where you have cognitive events occurring, which is a lot of the left hemisphere of the brain, things like trying to figure out languages, logic, reasoning, things like computational skills, scientific inquiries, all these cognitive things that we need when we go to school and do well on tests, and also for learning and memory. So those are real important functions. One of the other fascinating things about L-Arginine is its ability to stimulate human growth hormone, and also another hormone called prolactin.
Okay.
Prolactin and human growth hormone are really, really important. And we're beginning to suspect that the ability of the increased human growth hormone has a role in supporting aging and in helping to support longevity in humans. So as you're beginning to see with all the different things that L-Arginine does, it's like incredibly vital to human health.
Well, it has an extensive role.
Extensive role.
Extensive
role. One of the other things that I find fascinating as well, because part of our life has, as adults, to do also with sexual responsiveness and sexual function. And there's been a lot of research done on L-Arginine in this area, because one of the things that we understand now about L-Arginine is it increases the production and supports the production of nitrous oxide, which, by the way, is technically nothing more than nitrogen and oxygen. So it's nitrogen oxide. We call it nitrous oxide, or NO.
NO.
NO looks like the word no, so sometimes
Yes,
it's
it
not
does.
the preferred way to see it in writing, but nitrous oxide really has an amazing role in dilating microvessels, or what we call vasodilatation. And when this occurs in the sexual genital regions, what's really occurring is that we're grabbing a nitrogen from L-Arginine. This is a nitrogen atom, and then we're taking an oxygen atom, which is also circulating in the blood. Of course, we're carrying oxygen all the time. Combining the two creates nitrous oxide. Now, when nitrous oxide is available, this allows the area that is involved in sexual arousal or sexual stimulation to suddenly increase, because it's just relaxed, and suddenly there's a tremendous blood flow that increases. When this affects the vagina, the clitoris, the penis, all these areas can get very stimulated. So that is one of the reasons why L-Arginine has been associated with improved sexual responsiveness, both for men and women, unlike, you know, erectile dysfunction drugs, which are out there primarily for men. This is something that is both genders benefit from. So.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, it's good news
Thank
indeed.
you very much.